There's also, finally, the origin of the universe itself, and here I actually do have some expertise. What does naturalistic scientific modes of explanation have to say about the origin of the universe? It is a traditional role for God to play. If you pick up the Bible, it's right there in the beginning. God is creating the whole universe. So here's what we know from the modern perspective about the origin of the universe. 13.7 billion years ago, the universe was in a hot, dense, rapidly expanding state, which we call the Big Bang. A lot of the credit for this idea goes to Abbé Georges Lemaitre, a Catholic priest. After Lemaitre helped invent the idea of the Big Bang, the Pope tried to use it and to try to match on the scientific theory of the Big Bang to a theological view of God creating the universe out of nothing, and Lemaitre very wisely advised him against doing that. But nevertheless, the Big Bang has left us with questions about the origin of the universe. The Big Bang is not necessarily the beginning of the universe. We often talk as if it is. But what we're really doing when we talk about the Big Bang as being the beginning is we're using a theory to draw a conclusion when we have no right to believe what that theory is telling us. That theory, of course, is classical general relativity, Einstein's theory of space-time and gravity. If you extrapolate in classical general relativity back to the Big Bang and keep going backwards, you hit a singularity, a moment when the curvature of space-time, the expansion rate, the energy density are all infinitely big. So in classical general relativity, you would say that is a boundary to space-time. That is a point past which you can no longer go. However, we have absolutely no reason to think that classical general relativity is an appropriate and correct description of what is happening near the Big Bang. We should not think of the Big Bang as the beginning of the universe. We should think it as the end of our understanding of what is happening. We need to do a better job, at the very least, the theory of quantum gravity, before we can actually draw conclusions about what happened at that moment. Right now, it's better to simply say we don't know. We can, of course, say, can we possibly know? Is it possible to imagine theories of the universe in which the beginning of the universe is explained? Or do we need to hold that idea separate, giving it an opportunity for God to sneak in there and play a role? So I don't know what the right theory of the origin of the universe is, but I have no shortage of plausible theories. So let me just give you some of them. One is that the Big Bang really is the beginning, that the universe was in some sense created from nothing. Stephen Hawking obviously very famously has promoted this idea for a long time. But it's not the only one on the market. There is the cyclic universe, a universe which the Big Bang is just a phase that the universe goes through, that it expands and collapses again and bounces an infinite number of times. There is eternal inflation. Joe already talked about inflationary cosmology, the idea that from a very tiny patch of space, a negative pressure fluid can force the universe to accelerate a huge amount and grow greatly in volume. Well, it turns out that that can happen forever, and you can go from one little universe to many, many little sub-universes, and that can, again, happen an infinite number of times. There's also my favorite idea, which is that this kind of thing happens, but it happens in both directions of time. So that there is some point in the universe which is sort of a middle, and to the right and to the left of that, the universe grows and gets bigger and creates many little offspring universes. Any one of these models is, like I said, self-contained. It tells you the whole story of the universe. There is no external influence that is bringing the universe into existence. I'm not advocating any one of these models as correct. I'm merely pointing out that there's absolutely no reason to fall on our swords and say we need some help to explain the origin of the universe outside conventional naturalistic explanations.